I just point to the logo on my chest and tell them, Slam D, Ego, Slam D, Ego, Slam D, Ego, Slam D, hey. Hit it up hard, hit him with a strike. From the national anthem to the bottom of the night. Amen. Slam D, Ego, Slam D, Ego, Slam D, Ego, Slam D, hey. You already know what's up. What's that? Another home run. We should know the job ain't done till we hold that trophy up. Hey.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to episode 397 of the Talking Friars podcast and YouTube show. Ben Fadden with you here with a special guest, Jon Schaeffer, San Diego Sports 760, Jon and Jim, wrap-up show, a lot of different stuff. Jon, thanks so much for coming on, man.
Ben, I appreciate you having me. Always good to be with you. Excited to talk some San Diego sports and Padres baseball.
Yeah, of course. So first off, we'll get to Michael Wacha, we'll get to Manny, we'll get to everything Padres. But I just wanted to show the audience, the YouTube audience, the shirt that I'm rocking today. I think Jim is not going to be a fan of it, but Jim is an idiot.
I don't care if Jim's a fan because I'm a fan of that. The Jim's an idiot wrap-up show T-shirt. It's nice to see it out in the wild. It's nice to see you wearing that. I think Jim actually owns that shirt as well, so I don't think he'd be offended, but I like that look, dude.
I think it works, especially today, because yesterday on the AI show, it sounded like Jim was not an idiot there, and then when the real Jim came, he was making some mistakes, and it just was like, yeah, the AI Jim might be a little bit better, you know?
I mean, maybe we could just, do we even need Jim? Because with this new AI software, we can just use his voice anytime we want to use his voice. So, I mean, look out, Jim. Look out.
Yeah. He's going to not have a job maybe in a little bit and just have the wrap-up show. All right. Getting to Michael Wacha. So last night, obviously, was amazing. I mean, it was really fun watching him pitch. Almost had a no-hitter, threw 7 innings in the 8th inning. Obviously, I think 2 pitches into the bat, the single to right. But he pitched tremendous. And so far this year, I don't know if he's exceeded expectations, but for maybe some casual fans, he's been a pleasant surprise. Same with Seth Lugo. Like, there's been a couple down outings, but both of them, I think, have been really good for the Padres and kept the Padres in games and sometimes been the reason why they've won games. Because the offense was not that great last night. It was taking, advantage of the mistakes, a lot of mistakes from the Royals starting pitcher, Brad Keller. But do you think Wacha, Lugo, do you think they can continue this throughout the whole season? Specifically Wacha. I think Lugo at some point is going to move to the bullpen.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the combination of the two are going to be really important for this team because it's one thing to have a good front of a rotation. It's another thing to have depth in your rotation, which at times has plagued the Padres in recent years. I like the depth that they have right now. And I would throw in someone like Ryan Weathers that is yo-yoed up and, back and forth between AAA and the big leagues because I think he's improved from what we saw a year ago. I mean, Wacha's changeup last night was unbelievable. The fact that he's able to do that on a night where they needed that is important for me. Like, he was a stopper, right? Because if he doesn't come out and pitch well last night, if he goes 5 innings, the last 5 runs, well, the Padres probably don't win the game since they only scored 4 runs in the game. But I think overall he's been very effective. I think Seth Lugo, to your point, I'd be surprised if he threw the innings required to make the 30-something starts this year. And we'll see about Wacha as well because he's had some health concerns. But listen, the rotation is a reason why the Padres haven't been further buried, right? I mean, they're 20 and 22 with a very good rotation. If this pitching was not living up to expectations, they could be 6, 7, 8 games under 500. The pitching has kept him in it. I think the pitching eventually is going to carry the day. And hopefully when they really get rolling, the offense is going to have to improve, but it's going to be because of the starting pitching that we've seen for the better part of the first 7, 8 weeks.
Yeah, Musgrove's been better. Darvish has been better. Snell has even been good, especially for the first half of the season, Blake Snell. Like, that's not who we were expecting, especially with the way he started the season. So, they've been good. I think the bullpen's been good overall. I mean, there's been some struggles as of late, but they're not going to be perfect. They were, like Bob Melvin was saying, there's going to be a lot of pressure on that bullpen if the offense is not going to step up. And moving to kind of the offense, obviously it's a big reason why they went 1-7 in that stretch leading into last night's series opener against Kansas City. Bob Melvin, he called out the team after the Minnesota series. Do you think that he played that card a little too early in the season, being it middle of May, and you were going into a Dodgers series? Maybe do it, after getting swept by the Dodgers, going into a Royals series, not going into Dodger Stadium.
It's hard to say. I think he's got a good. I think the best trait, or one of the best traits of Bob Melvin, is probably his ability to read his clubhouse and like to deal with personalities. Like I think he's done very well with the personalities in that clubhouse over the last 2 seasons, and I think the reason he ultimately chose to do it then is because he probably had been thinking to do it even earlier. But, how soon is too soon was probably a question that he was weighing in his mind, and they just had not been playing well. So I'm okay with it. I mean, I don't think you can do it every single day. You probably can only do it a couple times over the course of a year. It worked out really well last September for Bob Melvin. I think at times he can be fiery, which I kind of like. I mean, maybe less of that you're seeing today in his 60s than you would have seen maybe when he was managing when he was in his 40s. But I'm okay with it. I mean, clearly they didn't respond initially to it, but that doesn't mean they won't get the message over the long term. They may have gotten the message. It doesn't mean you're automatically going to flip a switch and beat the LA Dodgers. So let's see how they play. I think to some extent it was overdue. And we'll see if they're able to, respond to what he had to convey.
If you had to put the blame on one person in this offense right now, I think it's Manny, right? Like the OPS plus, I was looking at it this morning, 84. His career OPS plus is 125. So we could point to Soto's early struggles, and Bogarts has not been great as of late. Jake Cronenworth has not been great as of late. I think he's had one hit. I forget how many at bats, but he's hitting under 100 in a certain past amount of games. It's not been great for him, but heavy is the head that wears the crown, like you like to say, and AI John like to say.
Yeah.
I think it has to be on Manny, right?
It's got to be. I mean, it's absolutely, I mean, the way Manny has played here these first 6 or 7 weeks of the season is a bit of a surprise, but I'm unwilling to say that what we've seen is what we will see, if that makes sense. Like there's way too much baseball in front of this team and this player for him to continue to perform like this. Now it'll be interesting to see what happens, how he responds to getting hit on the hand yesterday. The good news, it sounds like, is he avoided anything of significance. If it's a day or two, it's a day or two, and that's not an issue. At some point, Manny Machado is going to play like the player we saw a year ago. I mean, there's no reason to expect anything else. There just isn't. I don't know if he's going to be the same player that he was last year, where he was capable of finishing second in MVP voting, but he has not performed, and that's putting it lightly. He's been one of the worst performers in the National League when you look at OPS among regulars. He's still bottom 10 among regulars and OPS in the National League. That's not Manny Machado. That's going to end. I don't know when, though. Is it going to be in May? Is it going to be at some point this summer? And there is something, it's simple. Maybe it's too simplistic or simplifying it, but there is something to be said, like, as Manny goes, the team goes. We've said that a lot over the years. So he's going to heat up, which means the team is going to play better baseball. They've been able to, quote unquote, survive him not playing well to start the season. It's a matter of time. Let's just hope it comes sooner as opposed to later for Machado.
Yeah. His post-game comments in that Dodger series Sunday, kind of like, yeah, things are going to turn around. If we lose, we lose. That's pretty much kind of what he was saying, his mentality. And that's just who Manny is. He's not going to get too pissed off talking to the media, really. Like, we're just going to play baseball, just playing baseball. He loves that and loves joking with Kevin and all that. Did you have a problem with his response there? And Friday, I believe after Friday's game, declining comment to the media, just pretty much saying he didn't really have anything. I was fine with both of those instances, Friday and then Sunday. Like, if he doesn't have anything, he'll talk at some point. I know it might be a bad look to decline comment, but you just have to play better at that point. Like, what is there to say? Right. Like, well, we're going to turn it around. Like, that's what Manny said Sunday. So you were expecting that.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I mean, I think to some extent it feels like he's been quieter than he would normally be over the course of a season, but maybe that's just me reading too much into it because of the way he's been playing. I'm fine with him. If he has no comment, he has no comment. That's his right. And then his comments Sunday, I always like his honesty and his transparency. It's not what every player around baseball would say. I mean, the fact that he said on Sunday, hey, we may win on Monday, we may not. But, kind of talk to me at the end of the season and let's see where we stack up. I respect that, and I understand his point. His point's valid. I mean, We can dissect it each and every day, like you do on Talking Friars, like we do on the wrap-up show on Jon and Jim. The truth is there's an element of that is very consumable for fans, but there's a part of it from a player's perspective where you are working for the entirety of the season. It's not just about one game. It's about one game and the next, and consistency and getting through highs and lows of a year. At the end of the season, the numbers will speak for themselves. If Machado at the end of the year is hitting 280 with 30 home runs, that's the player that he was. And if Manny Machado is playing better baseball in September and October, that's the type of baseball that'll benefit the Padres the most. So I understand it from a player's perspective. I also, though, get it from a fan perspective, which is, hey, we're watching, we're supporting, we're spending our money, we're filling this ballpark, and we're not getting what we think we should be getting from this team and some of these players. So there's two sides to the coin. It still is only the middle of May. There's a ton of baseball in front of this team. And I still have faith, and I think a lot of Padres fans do, that what's to come is going to be better than what we've seen to this point in 2023.
Yeah, and you talk about the fan support and just the ticket sales and all that. Like Sunday, the guys laughing in the dugout as they're getting swept. Like that's a bad look. But still, I was like, well, it's a long season. If you're going to look at it from the player's point of view, yeah, they're pissed off that they got swept. Manny talking about after the game, we're pressing. Yeah, we want to win a game. Yeah, but it is a long season, and you can't be pissed off the entire season, or it's going to be a miserable season. And sometimes that's like the worst thing for players, right? Is to be pissed off, because when you're pissed off, you probably feel like you're pressing even more than you should be. And you're just the mental grind of a baseball season, especially if you're going to act pissed off all year. I don't think that's going to bode well for the players, right?
I agree, but there's still a qualifier, which is like there is got to be an appropriate time to do it. If you're joking and laughing and it's the first inning of a scoreless game against the Dodgers and you've lost 4 straight, it's more understandable to me than literally 2 outs in the 9th inning. I mean, literally with 2 outs in the 9th inning, someone needs to kind of bite their lip. I mean, among that group of 4 that were all laughing, I'm surprised that nobody fully didn't react to it, if that makes sense.
Right, because Manny was sitting there. Manny was sitting on the left, and he kind of looked over and smiled. He smiled, but he wasn't like fully laughing.
I agree.
And Crony, I think when he either grounded out or something, they were showing him walking back to the dugout, and he looked pissed. He was cursing. Yeah, he was pissed. So yeah, it's different with other guys. I think. I mean, Soto and Tatis, we've seen them pissed off before. And Soto in the Dodgers series, he popped up one time with a runner in scoring position, and he slammed his helmet down. Like, they get pissed off, but just overall, their personalities, they like to joke, they like to have fun, they're smiling all the time.
Yeah, which at the end of the day is fine. I mean, it's not a reflection on Juan Soto as a player if he's joking in that spot. I'm not saying that Juan Soto is, taking these games lightly or taking his start to the season lightly, which he's now completely turned around. For me, it's a bit too much. We didn't make a huge deal out of it. I really didn't. I would, if someone asked me about it, I would say, I don't personally like it in that spot. If you've won 4 straight and you're losing in the 9th inning 4-0, okay. It's a little more understandable. I get it. It's only May. You're right. It's 162 games. We're not this isn't, this shouldn't be treated with ridiculous levels of seriousness. I mean, this is baseball. At the end of the day, they certainly should be able to be the players they want to be. I just thought in that spot, it was a optically really bad look.
Yeah. All right. Everyone listening to Talking Friars episode 397 with Jon Schaeffer. This episode brought to you by Gaglione Bros, famous cheesesteaks and garlic fries, gaglionebros.com. They're also available at Petco Park and inside Snapdragon Stadium. Staying with Manny, entering the Royals series, I was looking on the baseball reference page of just like 2023 Padres, and you look at the WAR, Manny is not on the leaderboard. Brett Sullivan was ahead of Manny on there. Wow. He was in the top 12. Mm-hmm. So it just shows how poor of a start Manny has gotten off to. And that made me immediately think, man, what would the discussion be? What would Jon and Jim be talking about opening shows if Manny had not signed the extension and he was playing like this?
Great question.
What would the discussion be? I mean, it would be like, wow, should the Padres be giving an 11-year extension to Manny Machado? And I would say yes, but that would just be weird, right?
Well, no, it's a good point. I mean, two things we'd be saying. We'd say how much is the looming decision or his looming free agency weighing on his start to the
Right.
season? And then secondarily, you'd say, well, is this the player you want in a Padres uniform beyond, the next 5 years? Is this someone you should be extending out or not? It is interesting. I thought the timing really was going to work out well for the Padres because I thought they were putting a distraction to the side in spring training and saying, you know what, let's just concentrate on winning in 2023. And once they got that deal done, and then they did the Cronenworth early extension, Bogart's in the fold for a long period of time, getting Tatis back. Soto's still a year out before you really have to worry about it. I felt as if they could solely concentrate on winning in 2023. For whatever reason, Machado hasn't hit. There's a myriad of possibilities as to why. And you and I can't fully get to the bottom of it because we're not in those conversations. There may be a single specific reason that we're unaware of that someone in the organization or Manny Machado is aware of. I think there's a few things you could talk about. Kevin Acey's written about this level of potential complacency that's kind of gone through the clubhouse with their expectations that they should almost like fall out of bed and win, that they've got so much talent that it'll just turn over at some point. Is he bothered by something that he would never lead us on to believe? He's sat a couple of days this year. He's had this quote unquote tweaked back, I want to say. Now, he's played very well in the field, but fielding is not hitting, right? I mean, they're different muscles in use in whether you're in the field or in the batter's box. So, or is it just mentally, or is it just baseball? I don't think it's quote unquote baseball. I don't think it's he's hitting the ball hard and his batting average on balls in play is low.
Mhm.
I think there's more to it than that. Maybe some of it is mental. Maybe some of it is physical, and maybe some of it is baseball, and maybe some of it is 162. And for whatever reason, he just hasn't turned it on as of yet. It is perplexing. 42 games is a lot. If it was 20 games, you say it's 20. But I've seen this guy have good 20, 30, 40 game stretches, and to have a bad 40 game stretch is a little bit hard to understand. I still believe it'll be turned around. I just don't know when it's gonna happen. And by the way, Ben, as you know, his May's been better than his April, although he's tailed off here with the Dodgers series and they getting hit last night. But his May has been better than April.
Right, definitely. Getting back to the contracting, this question just kind of popped in my head. Do you think that the Manny extension, that was more of a Seidler thing, and the Jake Cronenworth extension maybe was more of a front office Preller type of thing? I think Seidler still wanted to, reward Jake Cronenworth. Not saying that he didn't, but Seidler, there was the Kevin Acey report, how the Padres are so far apart, and then Seidler, got to Peoria, and it was like a deal was done. It just felt like Seidler was like, yeah, we're getting this done. And with Cronenworth, maybe front office was like, yeah, this guy needs to be here.
Yeah, I could see that. I could, Ben. I mean, first of all, I credit Seidler for his willingness to extend Manny Machado to that deal. We'll see how it works out, but what's your alternative? No Padre fan wants, including today, with the way he has played, nobody wants him to walk after 2023. Nobody's willing to say the next 10 years of his career are going to be what we've seen over the last 40-plus games. So Peter Seidler's ability to get that deal done benefits the Padres organization now and long term, even if there have been short-term losses with the way Machado has played. Then the Cronenworth deal, I think, is just a good baseball move. I know he hasn't performed to start this year, but you're getting a guy in his prime that plays now a corner at roughly 10-ish, 11-ish a year, and that's a pretty decent value. I mean, that's a value for a veteran player in his prime for a winning team that's going to play every day. So to your point, I think Seidler signs off on both of them. I think Seidler probably pushes the Machado deal through because that's the deal he wants to sign. I just think the Cronenworth deal is a good baseball decision for a team that's trying to win now and in the future as well.
Right. Last Padres question here. If, 1 to 10, 10 being like you're really worried, worry of the Padres missing the postseason. Mine is like not even at a 5, probably like a 3. Like, I'm not worried at all.
I'd probably be just a tick higher than that, Ben. I'm similar. I'd probably be a 4. I'm not concerned. I think they'll make the postseason. I think there's plenty of time for this team to go on a real run. They've already done it once. We kind of forget they had that 9-4 run with Tatis. There's no reason to think that that's not replicatable multiple times. And you can look at the schedule. I've been critical of people that say schedule, early. The truth is there should be some periods of time in the schedule that they take advantage of. And maybe we're in one right now, starting the series against the Royals. Maybe we're not. But the season is so long that they only need one or two, 6-1 weeks, 10-2, 2-week periods to all of a sudden be 10, 12, 14 games over 500. They won 89 games last year, and they were, quote unquote, comfortably in. I mean, they were in by 3 or 4 games, so they didn't need 89 wins to get in. The reason I'm somewhat measured or concerned would be I look at some of these projections now. You look at some of the Baseball Prospectus, Fangraphs, wherever you can find it. And, there's some projection sites that have the Padres now in a mid-80s threshold, anywhere from like 84 to 90, which, by the way, that full gamut might be enough for the Padres to get into the postseason. I said it yesterday. I mean, they had to close 70-51 to get to 89 wins. That sounds somewhat daunting. Now it's 69-51. They'd have to go 70-50 to close to have a better record than last year. I mean, that's a pretty good record over 120 games, but they're capable of doing it. There's no reason to think they're not capable of doing it unless all of a sudden we look up and it's July 4th and this team is still under 500. I don't think they will be under 500 on July 4th, but it'll be interesting to see how many games over 500 they will be by then.
Yeah, because at the beginning of the year, some were saying maybe the team wins 100 games, and that is what, almost 40 games over 500. So I think, talent-wise, like it's there to do it. Yeah, it'll be definitely tough, I think, to continue playing so well pitch-wise with the rotation and all that, but also offense, if they can turn it around. I mean, that would definitely help pitching as well. Let's get to San Diego State. So I know Jim doesn't want to talk about it, so we'll talk about it here.
I'm glad you do.
Going to the Pac-12 or maybe even the Big 12, like, what is the latest on this? I mean, we've heard like nothing on this. Is there Apple TV involved? Do you know, like, where would this be? The TV contract? When is that even going to happen?
Well, I do think, to your point, it has slowed down considerably, at least in the public eye. But I do think we're heading towards a pretty hard deadline of June 30th. Because if San Diego State doesn't notify the Mountain West of their intention to leave the league by June 30th, they basically are committing to the league for another year in all likelihood, because their buyout fee goes up threefold from whatever the number is in the 10, 15 million range, which maybe is negotiable. I'm not sure. To 30, 40, 45 million. So clearly San Diego State's not in the interest of paying triple the amount to exit the Mountain West. So I think June 30th is a real and absolute deadline, which means you're looking at before June 30th. It wouldn't be announced literally the day you'd have to leave the league, I wouldn't think. And here we are in the middle of May. I mean, you're basically 6 weeks. You've got 6 weeks for this to play out. And I think San Diego State is the most desirable non-Power 5 candidate to make the leap to a Power 5 league. There are so many reasons it makes sense. I can't really name a reason why it doesn't make sense, to be honest, from the Pac-12 perspective. I could probably say the same thing from a Big 12 perspective. It's just for the Pac-12 to not have SC and UCLA. They've got this cavernous void in Southern California. San Diego State's done it all the right ways with the new stadium, with winning, with the academic investments. I mean, there's just no reason. There's no real reason, unless you just don't like San Diego State, right? If you're not a fan of San Diego State, but if you're looking at this logically, there's no reason the Pac-12's future should not include San Diego State. But to your point, they need to get a TV deal done. They've obviously had some issues closing it. I think it'll be a combination of both linear television, right, what we typically watch, ESPNs or Foxes of the world, maybe some broadcast networks like a CBS or an NBC. And I think there's probably going to be a level of streaming in there, maybe an Apple, potentially an Amazon. I think Apple is more likely than Amazon. So we wait. I think the Pac-12, once they get a TV deal, will ultimately invite San Diego State. That's my personal belief. I also think there's a possibility that the Big 12, which has been super proactive and aggressive, is able to lure San Diego State, even if the Pac-12 shows interest in the Aztecs. So I think they have a little bit of leverage. I think they have some options. And I think it's going to play out. It's hard to be patient with this because it's taken literally a year since we found out about SC and UCLA, but we're getting towards the end of the process, I believe. I mean, my personal belief, without inside information, is that San Diego State is going to find out its fate, and hopefully, positively, at some point in the next 6 weeks.
And I mean, I feel that way too because of what JD Wicker has said. He to Seth Davis, right? In The Athletic, he pretty much said like it's going to happen. The president, Della De La Torre, I believe she hinted at it at the San Diego State celebration at Snapdragon. So like it's going to happen, kind of like with the MLS. It's going to happen. We're just waiting for it to happen. So definitely interesting to see when that does happen. With the MLS, so the latest, as we know of this morning, as when we're talking here, it's for anyone that isn't up to date. So there was a tweet that came out from, I believe, Two Balls and a Mic. They do a soccer podcast, I believe.
Yep.
And it was just breaking MLS to San Diego. It's happening Saturday, 7 p.m. at Snapdragon Stadium. It's going to be open to the public, an event. I don't know if Mohamed Mansour is going to be there. Probably should be if you want to get off to a good start. And hopefully questions can be answered there and all that. And there's probably going to be an announcement, hopefully Thursday. That's what Darren said yesterday on the Darren Smith Show on San Diego Sports 760. What is your viewpoint on just the loyal and the MLS thing here? Because some fans, they are welcoming it. Then some fans, they don't want to support it. There are some fans that are just kind of waiting and like you have to earn our support that way. I want this Mansour group, like they need to show that they care about San Diego, obviously, but I'm going to root for both teams and support both franchises. I think the loyal, what they've done with the community is tremendous, and building that up, I think they should have been given the opportunity to be the MLS team, especially with Landon Donovan and all that. But it's not going to happen. The ownership group, Mohamed Mansour and Saquon, it's their choice. They're coming in, $500 million expansion fee. They can do what they want with it. I definitely understand them wanting to do whatever they want with it because of how much money and how much time, financial resources that they're investing in this team, and just support both. I mean, they're not in the same league, and I'm Team San Diego. That's how I feel about it.
I mean, listen, Ben, I'm not an expert on American soccer or soccer in general, but I do talk about this topic a lot on the radio because I think it resonates with San Diegans. And I think
maybe not one, but go ahead.
What's that?
Maybe not one San Diegan who, clicks right off of it, but go ahead.
Yeah, potentially. But I do think it's going to resonate. And I think I think the loyalty to your point have been successful. I think Major League Soccer is going to be successful. I think San Diego is a great sports town that's completely underrated. And I think there's a chance for Major League Soccer to really thrive. Just like I think there's a wonderful opportunity for San Diego State's future as well in the Power Five. And they've already been highly successful, as we've talked about, in the Group of Five in the Mountain West in football and men's basketball. In terms of the loyal and Major League Soccer dynamic, I just don't have the aperture to fully be able to talk on it other than to what your point was, which is I hope that they can both thrive and both be successful if that's the route that's ultimately taken, where the loyal remain in USL in San Diego and a Major League Soccer team comes in and plays at Snapdragon Stadium and they're not partnering in some way. I hope they're able to coexist. And I hope that both are able to have success. And I think there'll be a level of fan that roots for both. I think there'll maybe be some fans that only root for the Major League Soccer team. And I think there'll be some fans that only root for the San Diego Loyal. This I know is fact. Without knowing all the particulars of this, there are a number of San Diegans that have been enamored by the idea of Major League Soccer coming to the city for 30 years and have put a lot of effort into bringing Major League Soccer to our community. Now, things have changed, groups have changed, times have changed, teams have come in and out of the market. I do think at the end of the day, San Diego is an ideal market for this. I really do believe that. I don't know. I'd be lying if I said I knew anything about the ownership group. I don't know the particulars of what's going on behind the scenes. I'd be lying if I told you I knew the particulars of the ownership group of the San Diego Loyal or the San Diego Wave. I do think ownership matters. And I think an investment in a community and in a team is of benefit. All you have to do is look at the San Diego Padres and the LA Chargers to know the importance of ownership. So I would never say it doesn't matter, but I would also say that I want people to be fans. You know what I mean? I don't know everything about everything that is in my home. You know what I mean? I don't know
Mhm.
about where this cap is made or anything about this sweatshirt. There's something about just be a fan. That's how I look at it. You know, of course, we're going to want to know more about these groups and entities, but if Major League Soccer is coming to San Diego and people are excited, I don't think there's any reason to discount that. I think people should be excited that Major League Soccer is coming to San Diego. Count me as one of the people that's going to be excited to support Major League Soccer. That's just how I feel. It's how I felt when I first found out about the possibility of Major League Soccer, 6 or 7 years ago in San Diego. And again, as I run circles on it, I hope the loyal work out. I hope Major League Soccer works out. Truth be told, I've never been to a loyal match. I'm one of these casual soccer fans that probably has a stupid line of delineation in my head where I'm like, you know what? If it's Major League Soccer, I'll turn more of my attention in that direction. If it's not Major League Soccer, I won't. That's stupid for some people, but that's how sports sometimes work as well. And I think the Major League Soccer team, you'll feel that a little bit. I think there'll be fans of this Major League Soccer franchise that probably haven't been fans of the USL. And maybe it opens them up, by the way, to San Diego loyal soccer. So hopefully it's a win-win is my long way of saying it.
Yeah. For me, like, I want to give this ownership group a chance, and I'm not going to sit here and bash that ownership group before really knowing who they are, what they stand for, if they're going to care about the San Diego community and all that. By the way, just have any thoughts about a certain writer pretty much saying that essentially San Diego sports radio sucks?
Not really, to be honest, Ben. I mean, I
Jim,
kind of agree.
Jim's that guy.
I
Guy.
agree.
He will have.
I agree from my show's perspective. San Diego sports radio sometimes does. I mean, you got to be able to laugh at some of this stuff. Seriously.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't take this stuff seriously at all. It is what it is. People have opinions. I respect people's opinions. Not everyone, by the way, consumes sports talk radio in San Diego. If you do, I'm sure you like some of it. You don't like other parts of it. And no, I don't have anything to say about it, but Jim, I'm sure would.
Yes. All right. Jon Schaeffer from Jon and Jim, wrap-up show, San Diego Sports 760. Jon and Jim, you can catch them 3 to 6 weekdays, San Diego Sports 760. Jon, thank you so much for the time.
Ben, appreciate it, man. Look forward to doing it again soon.
All right, everybody. That's episode 397 of the Talking Friars podcast and YouTube show. Talk to y'all later. Go Padres.